Thank you all for coming to this event. My name is Eileen Yee. If you don't know me, I'm the president of the JEC NYC, and we are so excited to be partnering with Chowbus for our event today to hear about their company and the individual stories of these amazing panelists. Chowbus is an online and mobile food ordering platform that curates daily featured dishes from select ethnic restaurants and delivers them hot and fresh directly to your home or office. What makes Chowbus different is the dish-centric ordering experience, so consumers can easily explore authentic ethnic food. Today, we have three executives of Chowbus here to talk about their individual stories and the founding and daily operations of Chowbus as a whole. Our three panelists are Linxin Wen, CEO and founder, Allan Chow, VP of Engineering and prior VP of Operations, and Ravi Nagubadi, Head of Data. Welcome, we're so excited to have you here. The event will start with a panel discussion and then go into audience Q&A, so please hold your questions until we start that portion of the event. Now I'm so honored to hand it over to Samir, the founding vice president of the JEC and current data scientist at Chowbus, to start us off. I think you're still muted, Samir.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Eileen. It's great to see everyone here today. I'm really excited for this event. And thanks again to Eileen and the New York board for organizing this event, and to Ravi, Linxin, and Allan for giving us their time today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Samir. I started the JC back in 2014 with its first chapter in Chicago. I was motivated by a belief that high school students could play a more active role in their own intellectual and professional development. And it's great to see how much the organization has grown in the past 7 years, now with chapters in 7 cities across the country. After founding the JC and after graduating high school, I went to Columbia University where I studied statistics. And after graduating from Columbia, I started working at Chowbus as a data scientist. And I think Chowbus is a really exciting company and a great organization. And even more so, I think Ravi, Linxin, and Allan are three really interesting individuals with great experiences. And I know we can all stand a lot to gain from listening to them. So on that note, I'll hand it back over to Eileen, and yeah, really excited for this event.
Thank you so much, Samir. We're so glad you're here with us. So to start, could each of our panelists introduce yourselves and the journey that led you to Chowbus?
Sure, maybe I can start first. Yeah. This is Linxin, CEO and the founder of Chowbus. Really nice to meet everyone here, and thanks for having me here. So basically, I can tell my story a little bit why I started this company. So I first come to the United States about 8 years ago almost, and well, I come here to pursue my master's degree. So while I was in the school, I tried to order food delivery, but I found out so many restaurants I like, they are not on any platform. Also, delivery was quite high. So I thought maybe I can build my own platform to serve, these underserved restaurants. So then I started basically with a social media account. People text me what they want. I call a restaurant, place order, and somehow I started a business, like that. And I bootstrapped the business for 2 years. And then, my passion is really about to introduce people, this authentic food, and in the same time try to help, this small independent restaurant bring more business to them. So that's why I started the journey. So yeah.
Yeah, I can go next. Hey everyone, I'm Allan Chow. My last name is in no relation at all to Chowbus, the name at all. But my career started as a software developer. Started taking on a lot of different positions throughout the software development cycle: product management, engineering management, QA, quality assurance. Really helped me understand the whole life cycle of the software development process. But really, up until 2017, when I read this article about Chowbus introducing the mission to introduce everybody in the U.S., everybody to authentic Chinese food that really resonated with me. That was effectively my life. I'm that guy who's loud and obnoxious at the table. You haven't tried this? You need to try this. So I reached out. Linxin and Sia, the two co-founders, were gracious enough to let me dive into their data, help them analyze some of their data, help them figure out what kind of opportunities that they have. And at the time, I was working at a company where I wasn't really passionate about the product. It was very B2B, very impersonal. And so was really looking for something to be passionate about. And so that was when I approached them to join the team. And so really history wrote us up there. I joined them as operations. We helped grow the team from there. And then most recently became the VP of engineering to focus back on my roots. Yeah, Ravi, you want to go?
Yeah. Yeah. So hi, I'm Ravi. I'm the head of data here at Chowbus, and I'm what you could call a serial entrepreneur. I started as a software engineer. Within a year after my first job, I started a consultancy, and then I started another software consultancy, and then a data security software product. And each of those were successful in their own right, but also had some failures along the way. And at some point I decided I wanted to just get some regular jobs. And I joined two well-known startups at the time. They were startups in Chicago, TrustWave and Grubhub. At Grubhub, that's actually where I met Allan. I was like, I led the build out of the data team at Grubhub, which was like only like one person at the time when I joined. And I think over time, Grubhub grew to have like 50 people on the data team. At some point along the way there, the entrepreneur gene kicked in again, and I decided to start my own restaurant. So I have my own restaurant called Art of Dosa in Chicago, where we specialize in South Indian food. When the pandemic hit, that had to kind of downscale and go into hibernation for a little bit after a while. And so when the pandemic came about, like I was coming back into tech, and just by chance, I was looking for Allan, and Allan was looking for me. We got on the phone, and Allan convinced me to join Chowbus for a little while, just as a contract to begin with. And I just saw the energy and enthusiasm of everybody all the way down, from Linxin at the top, Suyu, the CTO, and Allan, and everybody I worked with was just so fervent about the mission of this company. I just had to join full time. And and now I've been here, I think, about a year and 3 months, and it's been awesome.
Thank you so much for introducing all of your journeys. They all sound so interesting, exciting. It's great how you each kind of came in different paths, but are all now here together with this amazing mission-driven company. I love it. I was wondering if each of you could also tell us a bit more about your role at the company and what the day-to-day or projects in your role look like.
Yeah, sure. Maybe I start first. So for me, it's it's a really lot of a meeting. So basically, day to day, it's try to figure out the company strategy and the direction, and also more like a people side, and also especially during some months, it's about fundraising. So as a CEO, it's really about direction, people, and the money. So yeah, that's my role about. So.
Yeah, really, VP of operations or VP of engineering, my role is pretty much followed the same theme. When I first joined, we barely had 12 people in the company, and there was so many different aspects of running the business that needed to be managed. So a lot of it was manage something directly, establish process, hire other people to take over. And so And that happened for operations. And then into engineering, when I joined engineering, engineering was actually just 9 people at the end of 2019. Now we're at 74. And so in growing that is the same thing in terms of when you bring in so many new people, you need to have a foundation first. So a lot of it was build the foundation, bring people in to take it over. So like it's really the difference between operations and the engineering side is just really both is process oriented. However, just the domain of it, needing to be able to jump into different things, learn fast, establish, and then try to find the right people who are just as good. In best case scenario, you find somebody who's better than you at it. And so try to find the right people, get them in the right spot. So yeah, engineering too, all about establishing evaluation process, project management process, all whole gamut of things. So yeah, right now, I've handed off almost everything. And so a lot of it is also just taking the new people in, mentoring them, making sure that they can continue to grow as Chowbus grows.
Thanks, Alan. Yeah, for me as a head of data, I guess you could say I'm like the data steward of the company. You know, my job is really to enable the instrumentation and the measurement and monitoring of our success, right? Like our key performance indicators, you know. And so we have to build out a lot of different machinery that enables us to do that. You know, data assets. You know, like data warehouse tables, business intelligence reporting and dashboards, and also you know, building out machine learning and data science to be able to predict where we're going to be and actually have automated data products that enhance our decision making, both by individuals and even automatically by itself, like prescriptively. But like what I see my day to day as is, you know, there are a lot of meetings for sure. But all of that is really to help really smart people solve some complex problems, right? And so I'm lucky to have people like Samir on the team who can who I see as a lot smarter than myself. And he can, you know, all I got to do is answer some questions for him and he'll get down and dirty and solve the real problems. And so that's kind of what I see my job as, is to facilitate their success.
Yeah, shifting over to more of your individual journeys, I was wondering, what is the hardest challenge each of you have faced in your career and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, sure. Do you guys want to start first? Oh,
Yeah, I can start first on this one. Yeah, I'll go first. Yeah, hardest challenge I faced in my career, actually, my third company I started was a data security software startup. And it was really good. We solved like really a very complex problem that was needed by the aerospace and defense industry. In short time, we were seen as like the darling of the aerospace and defense industry. We had Boeing and Lockheed Martin and some of the top aerospace and defense companies, you know, looking at our product and wanting to buy it. And that was really good. But you know, problems came where, you know, my partner and I, we had been really good friends, but we, you know, didn't really see eye to eye and on some issues, and some of those things escalated to the point where we weren't able to reach compromises amongst each other. We ended up having to fold the company, and it actually ended up legal. And that was a challenge. I mean, it was just, that's, you know, it happens in startups, unfortunately. You know, you think you're working with people that you like to work with, and sometimes that can go sour, right? And so afterwards, I you know, you know, I had to reinvent my career at that point. I went back into the workspace, you know, with working for other companies, not working for myself. And I think there, I kind of looked at it as, you know what, I think it's time to come back and learn from others who've done things successfully, right? Trustwave was a big company in Chicago, and Grubhub was, you know, proven and had gone IPO. And I don't know if I definitely like fully overcame that, but I think I learned over time that, you know, compromise is very important. Sometimes, you know, you might have put a lot of years into something, and you know, you have to be able to, you know, give the give and take. Sometimes if you're always like fighting like this, and you know, and you don't come to win-win situations, everybody can lose, right? So it's always better to compromise where you can.
Yeah, I can go next. Yeah, the hardest challenge for me is still really ongoing. Like my career has pretty much been more like taking on different jobs, like always trying to determine like what's the job, what's the right job for me, what's the right career for me, what's the do I want to start my own thing? Do I have Linxin's courage to start my own thing? That sort of thing. And so, so yeah, really throughout my career, it's always trying to figure that out. And you know, what's great about Chowbus is I'm closer. I'm getting there. And generally, for example, at Boeing, it was very corporate, very like there is a system. If you play the game of the system, that's what you can do, you know, but you can lead a very comfortable life. Or going to startups like Grubhub, going into a more Silicon Valley type place like PayPal, like is it the challenge of the work itself? Is it what you're actually delivering? It's really tough, and then figuring that out. But one thing I do know for sure that Chowbus really helped me out was I really need to care about the product. Really need to care about the mission and what we're delivering. To compare against Braintree PayPal, which was in large part a B2B company and very impersonal, I just didn't care about the product at all. And as a result, the amount of satisfaction that I got out of it was extremely low. So really thinking about what aspects of the product that really makes me enjoy it really helps me out there in terms of like, oh, do I want to be an entrepreneur? Do I want to, you know, continue being a contributor? That's still something that, you know, figuring out myself. But for the most part, it's always like, oh, the biggest challenge is always like, what do I like what I'm doing? Do I look for something else for the possibility of something better? That's always an ongoing question.
Yeah, for me, it's you know, being a first-time, you know, entrepreneur and or CEO. It's all about, you know, you gotta learn everything from scratch, and also like a little different for me. It's like I come to this nation. It's like you know, as an immigrant. So, for example, when it's just a different challenge for different time. In the very first being when I started company, I need to learn how to register a company. I need to learn how to do, how to give to the payroll, how to keep employee, some equity or that kind of stuff. It's all small details. Also, like the most important thing for startup is finding the initial product market fit. And also sometimes you got to pivot. For example, we started the company with a shuttle idea. Basically, you can order the lunch at the same time. For a group of people, you can enjoy just $1 delivery fee. Then we found out the business barely grow for the first 2 years. Then we pivot to on-demand delivery. Then the business grow quickly. So it just it's just you just keep looking for the opportunity to grow, and sometimes you need to make a hard decision. and later on, as a company scale, because I never scale the company, how to make sure we hire the right people, how do we build a great culture that people enjoy working here. Sometimes we had a setback, right? Because probably we made a mistake, we just acknowledge that and we correct it, we move on. So I think the most important thing is like, just keep learning and don't give up and focus on the presence. And sometimes, when people do something, they always think about the past or the future, but you cannot change the past, you cannot predict the future. So all thing you can do is what's the best decision you can make at this moment. And so yeah, that's something, I feel like, about it. And speaking of the career, I think it's all about, finding something you are passionate about, and find something you love. So yeah.
Thank you so much for all of your answers. What about the biggest risk that you've taken in your careers? A lot of the times, high schoolers, when we're looking at college or even throughout your career, you'll come to like a fork in the road. You're not really sure what to do. And often I've seen the question asked of, have you taken a big risk? And if so, did the risk pay off in the end? So I was wondering, in each of your careers, what's the biggest risk that you've taken? And if you went back, would you take it again?
Yeah, maybe I can start this one. So for me, I think, well, the moment when you graduate, you had nothing to lose, to be honest. So, at that time, you probably didn't have a family. So the risk of trying something was very low comparing to maybe a few years later. And I remember my first job here in US. Actually, I got paid like $800. I mean, it's a part-time job. I was still happy about it. And it's and then when I saw the company, actually, every month probably the profits which can pay me, it's just $1,000. But I was still very happy about it because at that time, your living expense wasn't that high, and it's all about doing something you feel passionate about. So I don't think there is a big risk, for the people who just graduate to start a company that time. So yeah, definitely I suggest everyone, maybe if you find something, you just do it. So yeah.
I can go second again. Yeah, I mean, I took a totally different path, right? Like first job out of undergrad was at Boeing, very corporate. Arguably, like joining an early stage startup like Chowbus would be a risk, but um, for me, relatively later in my career, joining Chowbus was actually a pretty low risk thing for myself as well. The biggest risk was probably for me leaving Boeing, which was like not knowing, just being in the Boeing ecosystem, and only knowing that one job, right? Which is a trap that a lot of people fall into, and to be willing to be like, okay, what else is out there? And so that is where, like, relative to, like, as opposed to like starting straight out like out of school, like, yeah, I definitely had stuff to lose, but fortunately, my wife was very supportive in my decision to leave, pursue. That's when I joined another startup, and which didn't work out, and but it really just opened up the rest of the world to me, in terms of not only what could I do, but also just what are the other opportunities out there. And so yeah, always keep your eyes open, and don't be afraid to make the jump, and be confident in yourself to be able to land in your own 2 feet.
Yeah. For me, yeah, the biggest risk, the risk, I guess, is when, like, I guess when you have kids, so you have two, it's it's hard to jump out and be in a startup, right? And so I guess, my biggest risk was when I left Grubhub to start my own restaurant. And that was like fully in, like I just, wasn't like doing two things at once. Yeah, I mean, I did everything, from, cooking to hiring to payroll to, events and, all kinds of stuff. And, who knows where this is going to go. Did it pay off? We don't know yet. It was doing really well up until the pandemic, and now it's on pause, and it may open in the next month or two, I think. And we'll know then. But I believe it'll be good. But I mean, in the end, like, even if the risk doesn't pay off, like, I think there's just the taking of the risk and the lessons that you learn from it, you always end up better than you were before, right? So payoff is like a relative term. Every decision that you make, ultimately, it makes you grow.
Thank you so much for all the advice. Our last question about your individual careers was, do you wish you've done anything differently? And if so, what?
Yeah, for me, I think probably not. It's just I will still start my own business. It's always my dream. And but one thing probably I would done differently probably is I really want to learn coding. So that's something I really want to try. So besides that, I don't think don't think so.
Yeah,
Right.
honestly, oh, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I would say the same. I wouldn't, even where I've made mistakes, I wouldn't change anything, because I think those are the lessons that I've learned. Like, so, I don't think I would do anything differently. Every step you take is a part of your journey, right? So, if you spend too much time, regretting a mistake you think you may have made, it's it's not worthwhile. You just keep moving. Learn from the mistake, pull up your socks and move forward.
Yeah, exactly what Ravi said. I mean, everything that happens, everything that you do, it helps form you today, And so it's really just taking all that knowledge, all of those experiences, and apply it to the next step that you take.
Yeah, just as Steve Jobs said, you gotta believe the dots will be connected.
That's right.
So I think, Linxin, you answered the next question partly when you started introducing your journey, but I was wondering, why did you decide to start Chowbus, and what were the first steps in terms of building the company?
Yeah, for me, it's I had a two dream since my childhood. One is to come to United States, to check out, and second one is to start my own business. So in the very first beginning, it's my childhood. The people always say, "Oh, start your business." It's all about getting more money. But later on, I found it's not true. In the very first beginning, it barely make money for the foreseeable years, but it's all about building something you love. And also later on you can find you can make an impact in this world. It's like for example, all restaurants get more money because because us, and you can feel sense of achievement, and also you feel like you are bringing the value to the society, and our driver can make more money. You can feel that. And it's all about building something that's really have an impact. And I think that's the most important thing why I enjoy doing a startup. So
What was the biggest challenge that you faced in opening Chowbus? And for Allan and Ravi, what were, I guess, the biggest challenges you had when you first joined the company?
what's the biggest challenge I do the Chowbus? I think that's just so many I cannot even remember. Like each day, each week, each month, we have all kind of a different challenge. There is always up and downs, and yeah, it's just too many. Sometimes I just at the moment, sometimes I feel like okay, I cannot get over to it. For example, last year we had a data incident, right? So and I felt like I was dying. I mean, I tried so hard to build a business, but this kind of stuff happened, and I try to build a business that really want to bring value to to other people, but sometimes I don't know why this happened to me. But later on, when I look back, it all passed. We just try our best to rebuild the trust among the customers. I mean, there's just so many challenge, and the thing is like you just keep moving. You believe what you're doing. So, yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, like when I joined Chavas, there was just so much that needed to be done in terms of uh, building out, what the company could be in order to scale. And so really, like there's so much that needed to be done. However, you had to focus on like what's the most important thing to lay out. And so the hardest part was focus. Just to like this needs to be done, this needs to be fleshed out. And then you need to harden it in order to be able to hand it off to somebody else to worry about it. So then you can work off on the next thing. And so yeah, it was just like literally one after another. Was it hiring drivers? Was it managing the city launch? Was it immigration stuff? Was it, each of those things had entirely different problems. And so it was yeah, that was really just keeping focus, be able to get one thing done where somebody else can handle it, and then move on. That as opposed to trying to handle everything at once.
Yeah. For me, when I joined Chowbus, it was almost kind of like, the beginning, Chowbus really didn't have a data group. It was like a data person, um, or person, like a couple of people were there doing data work. And both of them had been with Chowbus since they had just come out of college. So they were young. So it was really, for me, it was almost like trying to build a whole brand new practice, or almost like a little company within the company. And it's a blank canvas. What do you do with a blank canvas? That's always a challenge, right? And so like, I think Allan said that the finance people needed some reporting, and Linxin said we need some auto dispatch, and say, what do we do first, right? And my thought was to go with my gut. Actually, was in the beginning, when you're building out a data team and a data practice, data has to make its way into the culture, right? And so you want to build a culture around data by making data available to the community that you make decisions. And so instead of going with like what everyone was kind of asking for, I kind of went with my gut and said, you know what, I think we need to build a capability where everybody has data at their fingertips to be able to make decisions. And so that was a challenge, and a direction I took it differently from what was being asked for. But I feel like sometimes you have to just trust your gut, and the experience that you had, and go forward with that. And it turned out to be really good. Like we stood up a data warehouse that was available to everybody that we could build reports on top of, and now it's like the center of I think just about everybody in the company that needs to make some decisions uses what we've built, and that's been really rewarding.
Regarding your company as a whole, in such a competitive market, how do you stay ahead of other food delivery services? And for Allan, you mentioned that you worked at Grubhub. So how did your time there influence the way you approach your work here at Chowbus?
Yeah, I mean, kind of show of hands, has anybody here ever like placed an order on Uber Eats and Grubhub or DoorDash and like wait 90 minutes and then all of a sudden get a text message that your order's been canceled? Yeah, we don't do that. um, really, it's so important to really focus on the customer and make sure that when they're placing an order from you, they're placing in some trust, right? You got to deliver the food on time. You got to deliver the right food to you. There's so many things where things can break down, and one thing that some of the other companies have started doing is they started calculating what's an acceptable loss. An acceptable loss in terms of a customer. Like, you know what? If we just do this, right? You'll come back. You'll come back and place an order with us again. That's attitude number one. And then attitude number two is, yeah, if we lose you, it's no big deal because we got other people that we can grab. And so that attitude really specifically with regards to attrition, right, and lifetime value, definitely hurts that. And it's one of those things where maybe they're right. However, over time, it can really hurt if you just keep doing that with everybody. And so we really focus on ensuring that the customer gets their food. Like that's number one, making sure that food is delivered. We focus so much on that. There's so much blood, sweat, and tears just to make sure that happens. And we don't say, you know what, this isn't worth it. And that's the key thing, where other companies are saying, you know what, trying to make sure that we have enough drivers, that's not worth it. We're just going to cut our losses. And so I think that's been key in having a step ahead of our competitors.
Yeah, just want to echo what Allan said. It's, being a startup, for a big company, it's hard for them to, take care of so many customers. But for startup, you basically build the business one customer per time. So every customer means a lot to us, especially in the early days. You bootstrap the business. It just felt like every customer is so important. If we had an angry customer, we call the customer to beg the customer to come back to ask what did we do wrong. Sometimes because it's something out of our control. For example, suddenly the traffic is so bad, order got delayed. We explain to one customer, just call the customer to explain, and that's the attitude we take, and I think that's the foundation of the company. And I still remember it's 2018 or something. In Chicago, the winter was one day was so cold, and for other delivery company, they basically shut down the operation. But most of the driver on that day still come out, and the whole office, most of the employee come out to help to make sure we still deliver. And after that, we just again lots of customer. So I think it's really about building the trust for your customer, and also you need to find a differentiation. For us, we focus on the Asian cuisine. We want to find the best Asian restaurants and deliver the best Asian food to our customer. It's a different approach than Uber Eats Grubhub. So you find the niche, you care about the customer, then yeah, just yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Building on that, and this is one of the things that I found like so compelling about Chowbus when I joined, was on the focus of Asian food. Like, there are some amazing restaurants that are on Chowbus that are dug deep into little Chinatowns and Korea markets and Asian markets that aren't on any of the platforms, right? And I've been in the food delivery business now for like I think over almost 7 years. from Grubhub to when I was doing my own restaurant. I was a virtual restaurant. I was delivering food, right? And then, here, how many times are you on a delivery platform and you want this one restaurant, but it's not available there, right? Or it's there, but it's too far away. That's not really a problem for Chowbus. Chowbus, I live in Wheaton, Illinois, which for those of you in Chicago, it's in the western suburbs. I can order food from Chowbus from Chinatown, Chicago, off of the Chowbus app. Like, what other apps allow you to do that? None. In fact, interestingly enough, you could actually order food from Madison, Wisconsin, or Milwaukee off Chowbus from Chinatown, Chicago, which is amazing. And we find a way to make it economical for the drivers and for the company as well by doing a lot of batching of orders. So drivers are able to take many orders at a time to the customer. So like to deliver to the western suburbs, a driver that comes out this way will probably have like 10, 12, 15 orders in his hands that he's going to deliver all of them. So it's economical, and it capitalizes on the fact that Asian food also delivers pretty well. There's not a whole bunch of food that has to be held crispy for a long time. So if it comes a little bit later because it's a long distance, like people, generally are okay, warming some of that up if it came a little bit later than usual. But like how, you can order off of the best restaurant in Chinatown if you have that real, Asian cringe and if, or the craving, and if you you don't have to order from like some kind of a Panda Express or a PF Chang, you get the real stuff, right? And when I started at Grubhub, like we at that time, Grubhub was priding itself on this notion of helping mom and pop restaurants, young restaurants that it was helping them to get money. But like by the time I left, 3-4 years later, all the deals that were being made were with the Taco Bells and the Yum Brands and the Wendy's and the Burger Kings and the Chipotles and whoever else. I mean, like those are huge restaurants. Like what they weren't really helping the small players anymore. I think what's really great about Chowbus is that Chowbus really stays true to the smaller brands and expands their reach. So it's not just like Chowbus isn't only committed to the end diner. At the end of the day, they're also committed to those small restaurants to help them grow, and that's real. Like it's not just lip service. Like right, so the other companies, it's just lip service. They're taking 30%, 40% commissions out of people who are struggling to make ends meet, and Chowbus doesn't really do that.
One thing that I'm sure is on all of our minds recently is the COVID-19 pandemic. And I was wondering how your business has been affected by the pandemic and what you've done to mitigate the long-term effects and risks.
Yeah, actually for us, COVID actually is a boost to the business overall because more people order delivery. But one challenge we had, it's about hiring, recruiting, because the business grow, we need to hire lots of people. But when you hire people, you cannot personally meet them. It's a feel very different, than the early days. We hire people, we meet in the office, we work every day in the office. So that was a kind of a challenging for us. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of people were at home ordering delivery a lot more. Probably one of the hardest things for me was, despite our ability to drive more delivery orders to restaurants, some of our partner restaurants still had to close down, and that was rough. You could definitely help alleviate the issue, but you can solve it outright. And as mentioned, going from 9 to 74 in tech, yeah, a lot of the recruiting is really tough, and also being able to know like when is the right time to bring on what type of people. I mentioned before, you need to have foundation, you need to have you need to have someone in place to, like a typical thing when you hire a new software developer, you need to have somebody to be able to mentor them for at least a solid month for them to get up to speed. And so you can't have your new hires outnumber your mentors that you have. And then how to transition the new hires into mentors themselves. So all that's a really fine balance when you got to grow really fast to handle the business.
You know, I have to like really give kudos to Linxin for the way they handled COVID-19. You know, when I first started, I came on the company when the company had just, because of COVID-19, had to eliminate and make a hard decision of one of the services that they used to provide, which was a shuttle. So the shuttle was a service where drivers would carry lots of meals that were ordered to, and they would make stops, and you'd have to, you as an individual would have to go to the stop that's nearest to you and pick up your food, right? And that COVID-19 made that something that the business couldn't run anymore, right? Because it wouldn't have been health safe. And so Linxin and Suyu, they made a decision to, at the time, shut that aspect of the business down. So they focused on the delivery business and grew that, so many times over during the time, right? So they realigned their focus time, and then also pivoted into, took a risk actually with pivoting into doing grocery business, because everybody was still going to grocery stores and everybody needed groceries more than ever, because they were ordering more food in, but they were all doing groceries on their own, right? And cooking at home a lot more than they had been. And so Chowbus pivoted into grocery, and at the beginning it turned out to be successful. And towards the end of the pandemic, like there were some decisions that needed to be made, because it's a harder business to sustain when you're doing first party grocery as opposed to third party, food delivery. A lot of different decisions had to be made as a result of COVID, and that's one of the advantages of being small. Like Chowbus is, you can be nimble, right? And I felt like Chowbus really grew during the pandemic more than so many other companies that otherwise faltered as a result, right? And it's all about being able to be nimble and finding out what the opportunities are in the face of adversity, and getting all the people rallied together behind that concept. And Chowbus has been able to do that.
As the pandemic is coming to a close and people are able to go back outside to get their food instead of needing the delivery, how are you all, I guess, looking into, like, what is your plan in terms of how to mitigate those effects, or do you not think it'll really affect the demand for delivery services?
Yeah, I can go with that one. So yeah, we totally expect deliveries to go down as a result. One of the things that everybody's coming out, everyone's going to the restaurants. One of the things that we've actually started doing as a product, we were already towards the end of 2019, driving more towards this anyway, even before the pandemic, which was launching, going towards an in-restaurant POS system for handling in-restaurant orders. And so obviously with the pandemic, the timeline for that faltered. However, the key thing here is when we've been launching, now that people are coming back into the restaurants, we're rolling out our POS service out to more and more restaurants to actually really make the one single cohesive Chowbus experience for customer, whether they're eating at home, whether just grabbing pickup, whether they're eating in the restaurant. This really gives the restaurant like a ton of visibility in terms of what are their customers doing, where are their best customers, what type of customer, what do their customers generally like, what can they do to potentially even garner more business, delivery or dining. And so we believe that this is going to be key in COVID winding down. And as Ravi mentioned, we definitely made some hard decisions in terms of shutting down business lines during COVID, ramping up other business lines like the first party grocery. But then now that COVID's winding down, what things just simply won't work anymore. And so we're still going through all of that.
Also, touching on that topic, what are some avenues for expansion that you're pursuing? Do you have any thoughts on diversifying away from Asian food? And I think one of our audience members also was wondering, is the aim to be like as big as Grubhub one day, or kind of expand to more cities, or is the aim to stay more local and focus on the businesses that you have right now?
Yeah, for us, our mission is to really help people and the restaurant in pursuit for authentic food. So we start from the Asian cuisine, we start from the delivery. But what we really try to build, it's basically two things. Really help the customer to, to explore, order, and experience authentic food. We believe there is a bigger potential there with the personalization, with even short video. There's so many things could happen in the next few years to really change the way how people explore the food. And the second thing is about building the technology to help restaurants to grow their business. We believe there is a huge opportunity in terms of restaurant digitalization. Think about the way restaurant running the business, especially for the independent restaurant owner, mom and pop restaurant owner. It's basically like exactly as like 10 years, 20 years before, right? And even with the advanced technology, there are not so many things happen in recent years. So we believe in the future there are more things we can do to help them. So basically we're focused on these two things. That's why we not we're doing the delivery, but also we are launching our POS system, to really help the restaurant in all perspective. It's a long way to go, so we need to just be patient and focus on the customer and build it gradually. And in terms of other cuisines, I think eventually, definitely, we will, because we believe the technology we're building can be applied to other cuisines. Sorry, my cat. Wait a second. Yeah, cat problem. And yeah, I think the thing we're building can help all the independent restaurant owner, not just the Asian restaurant owner. So yeah.
Yeah, one thing to add is that I think delivery as a business model in general is here to stay. It's just that, of course, like everybody's itching right now to go out and get food, right? So there'll be a drop initially. But what's interesting, like when I was at Grubhub, I actually was in charge of restaurant analytics for a little time there for the last I think couple of years. And I see most of you, like many of you are from New York and many of you are from Chicago, right? So here's a question for the audience. So out of the top 100 restaurants on Grubhub, say 4 years ago, that's when I was, 3 years ago. Top 100 restaurants on a platform like that. How many were in New York versus how many were in Chicago? Just give me somebody give me a rough guess what they think it was. Top 100 restaurants on Grubhub's Seamless platform. I see a 60, 40, 30 in New York. Let's get one more guess. 50, 50, 70, 30. Interesting. 97 were in New York. 0 were in Chicago. 0. New York at that time was a delivery culture. Like people just ordered it. In Chicago, on the other hand, hardly as much. Like we were a town that went out for food, always. So right now, obviously, you know, we're all, and especially in Chicago, everybody's wanting to go back out to get food. But the pandemic changed the culture. It forced not just Chicago, but every city in the country to order food online, because that was the only way you can get food, right? And so that culture has changed for good. And so, you know, and New York being really the only major city, I think the other two were in Boston, Philadelphia, and there was one in Los Angeles. Okay. So now the culture of ordering food for pickup or delivery online through a platform is just ubiquitous culture in America now. So I believe that the ability to grow after the pandemic's, you know, over, we'll have an initial move to have, you know, to just go out, especially at the summertime now. When it comes back into, like, you know, fall and winter, delivery is going to be a lot bigger than it ever has been over the past like 5-10 years, and it'll keep going that direction.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think moving to our last question before Q&A, looking to us audience members, we're all high school students, probably some of us on the verge of possibly going to college and thinking about what we want to do. What is your #1 tip for high school students looking to start their own businesses? And what can we as students do to become better leaders and entrepreneurs as a whole?
Yeah, from my perspective, it's about you know, if you feel like you've already found the thing you love, then you just do it. I mean, probably, you know, it's you know, it's not likely it's like every time you can be successful, but at least from this experience, you know, you can learn at least from this experience. Also, you just don't regret, you know, because when you make a decision, it's all about, you know, a few years later, if you look back, where you'll be regretting, it's like you didn't do it, right? So, but sometimes in some ways, this is something, you know, I'm debating myself. Also, sometimes I just feel like probably joining a company first to learn, then you launch your business, probably it's a highly likely, you know, more likely to be successful. Yeah, so I'm actually, yeah, this is really depends on the people. Different people have a different opinion on this. Yeah.
Yeah, like I've never really started anything on my own, really. Like every single time I do something kind of outside the norm, it was always very safe. So I did websites for restaurants for free food. I did catering, but those are always side gigs, not like my primary way of life. Yeah, but really, kind of like what Linxin said, you know, starting a business, like observing Linxin, observing other entrepreneurs that I've interacted with, it's like 90% just having the balls to do it, and then 10% figuring it out. And like Linxin said, like, you know, you only, like, you definitely don't regret doing something just because it was like super hard or if it didn't work out. Along that lines of like joining a company too, you know, it's always like always keep your eyes open for people to be mentors who are open, you know. Whenever you come across somebody who is willing to give you their time and they have a little bit more experience than you, definitely take advantage of it. Like I'd say like, some of the people who do best in school right now are the ones who always ask questions of the TAs, the teaching assistants, right? Or their teachers. And the same thing in terms of finding the mentors. In terms of like as students, to become better leaders and entrepreneurs, it's always like, I would say like the biggest thing is like nothing is ever easy the first time. Like things only become easy because of like blood, sweat, and tears, repetition. Anybody who's learned a musical instrument can tell you, you can't just pick up a violin. So another saying that I like is just is a 4-letter word. Don't use that word. And so through that, everything in terms of everything is through practice. Sure, some people have talent, but everything is through practice, and keep doing it and keep hammering at it. Don't get discouraged.
That was really good, both of you guys. I have a few, not just one. I would say one, like it really starts with a problem that ideally you face, but a problem that generally needs solving, right? Like Linxin started Chowbus because he couldn't get home food, right? Like really good Chinese food. And he knew everybody else also had the same problem they wanted it to. And that's a hard thing to find, right? It's a problem that needs solving at a general level, right? So, it's you don't want to necessarily get into something because it seems cool or any of that kind of stuff. Ultimately, businesses that do well are the ones that are solving a problem that's out there that people need solved. Number two, once you know that, take action. Don't think too much. I think you just, as Linxin said, you're not going to regret it. You're going to learn a lot from it, and it may end up being really successful. So if you think too much about it, you're doing yourself a disservice. Take action. Number three is, Linxin actually referred to this one too. He said he wishes he learned how to code, right? I actually, like, one of the things an entrepreneur has to do is everything. Like, you have to do everything. You build everything. You're a part of everything, right? And you have to be ready to be able to do a bit of everything, from building the product to like the payroll, to the hiring, to the firing sometimes, and to everything. As an entrepreneur, you have to do all of it. You have to be ready to do it. So I would say, and most startups that people want to start nowadays involves technology in some ways. So I would say definitely learn how to code. Like, if you have the opportunity to do it, go ahead and learn a little bit, even if it's just enough to be dangerous, right? So at least, like, when you have to hire coders, you kind of know what you're looking for at that point. If you're not going to do it yourself, right? So knowing that's good. And then, number four, I would say is I think, building on what Allan was saying, is it's a ton of hard work. It's like there's 99.999% slog and 0.0001% glory. You don't know if it's gonna end up being there any day. You just, because it's that, you got to really love what you're doing, have a passion for it, knowing that, hey, I might do this and it may not pan out, but you got to love what you're doing. If you love what you're doing, you'll automatically attract more people to join the same mission that you're on. If you don't really love it, like, you're not going to attract those people, right? It's going to take a village to build that product, and so and business. So you better love it, because those the other people that you want to bring along for the ride, they're not going to if you don't, right? So I know it's a lot there, but just a few things I've seen over the years.
Yeah, that's right. Also, like, one tip is don't do this for money. because it's really about if you do this for money, because the startup is always up and downs. I saw so many people give up. It's all about do you believe the thing you are building? Do you love it? And only in this way you can be perseverant, just keep trying. Also startup pivot a lot, yeah, and you never know. You maybe start with an idea that seems kind of stupid, but once you do it, you find another opportunity, you pivot, you be successful. And and also don't let other people to judge you. It's like when I started, so many people say, oh, you cannot make it, the market is too small, you never done this before, and also you're an immigrant, right? So but you just gotta believe you can make it, and all other things doesn't matter. So yeah.
Thank you so much for your amazing advice and also answering all of our questions. I know I learned a lot. Now we're going to be moving into the Q&A portion. So there are a couple different ways for audience members to ask questions. You can either raise your hand and I can call on you. You can unmute and ask yourself, or if you're more comfortable, you feel free to use the chat or private message me and I can ask it myself. So yeah, I see our first one is Kyle. Go ahead.
Hi, this question is for Ravi and Allan. What was your experience of startup culture and how did it affect you? Also, what was the working environment for these startups?
Yeah, I can go first. Yeah, I mean, Chowbus when I joined, I've worked for two startups, one called Apistry and one and Chowbus. You can't really count Grubhub and Braintree as startups when I joined them. And really, the common theme was like you're always jumping into things that aren't in your job title. You're always having to jump into different things, especially at early stage. You have to figure it out. You have to make sure that be willing to jump in. You can't just go like, well, my role is this. You got to find somebody else to do that. No, everyone's got to figure that out. And so that's probably the biggest thing in terms of startup culture versus others.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. I actually think Grubhub was kind of a startup, even though it when we were there at the beginning, just probably maybe the first year I was there. So there's one of the aspects that I think of it as it was a work hard, play hard type of atmosphere, right? People there loved their work and would work, tireless hours, but they knew how to have fun at the same time. I remember during lunch, we'd always have like game time and people would play all kinds of games, Avalon and a whole bunch of stuff. We played a lot of table tennis. You can see I have a table tennis table in my background here. So we'd play a lot of table tennis after hours, and so it was work hard, play hard atmosphere. That's one aspect of it too. Is deep dive. You have to really roll up your sleeves and understand the business. Be successful in a startup as an employee who wants to kind of really make it and in that startup, and then eventually start on their own. As I was saying earlier, like you have to be able to do everything. If you join a startup, you have to know kind of what everyone is doing and what the business model is, and be ready to, for example, in our business, go drive orders, and be a delivery person, shadow the dispatch people, help out with customer service. I mean, all that kind of stuff. Like it's crucial to really understand all the different aspects of the business. That's where even if you're just a programmer and that's your role, know what everybody else is doing. That'll make you that much better a programmer.
Yeah, I think the next one is Blake.
Thanks. Hey everyone. I have a question for Ravi and the data team. I was wondering how Chowbus really use data to improve your company and find customers and all that.
Yeah, improvement at all different levels. I think a lot of what we've been doing, Samir is actually very much involved with this. using data to make automated data-driven decisions. So building, we're building machine learning models now. Right now, actually, early stage ones, like figuring out how long it takes to for a restaurant based on past histories for them to make their food, right? That's critical for operations to be able to deliver food on time. So you get the driver to the restaurant right about when the food's prepared, right? So that's one aspect, one way. Two, we're starting to use, we're building auto dispatch capabilities to be able to take that data and be able to automatically just create the right batches of orders, knowing which orders belong together and can be delivered together, and which drivers should we assign that to, and not have to have human dispatchers always making those decisions, right? So that's very much data driven. On the customer side, we're doing a lot with now just getting into it for the first time is building personalized recommendations, so that based on what people have ordered in the past or people have chosen for their cart, not necessarily ordered, what are they likely to order that's different? So are they sushi lovers? Can we recommend them another sushi restaurant that they may not have ordered from before, but they might want to try, right? So once you build a data foundation, then you can do all of that kind of stuff where you use that data to make predictive capabilities on all fronts.
Shifting to a question I have in the chat here, could you talk a little bit about your hiring process? What do you look for in an employee, and what steps do you take to ensure that you make good hiring choices?
Yeah, so for us, it's we really want to find the people who are passionate about our mission and who really believe the thing we're building. Also, also it's about the company value, where we are really focused on. For example, customer obsessive and a strong ownership. As Ravi mentioned, actually, Alan also mentioned this too, is that people join us, you need to jump in different area sometimes. And also people really want, especially in startup, it's we basically own the thing. You can build something from scratch. For example, Ravi builds a data thing, for Chowbus. So you can build something from, according to imagination, and that's the beauty of the startup. So it's just really, we need to find the people who are passionate about this. Yeah.
Allan, you wanna take that one too on the tech side?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, there's so many factors to take into account, right? In terms of technical aptitude, in terms of cultural fit, in terms of their belief in the mission. And so, yeah, it really, probably the most important thing is consensus in all the people who are participating in the interview process. Like, this person's the right fit, whether from a technical perspective, whether from a cultural perspective or a personality perspective. Last thing that you want to do is override people when making a hiring decision, because that can hurt morale, that can hurt trust, that can hurt a lot of different aspects. Just the overall chemistry, especially when remote, right? And you can't satisfy everyone. The most important thing is to make sure everyone has their say. And when somebody doesn't necessarily get what they want, at least ensure that there's an understanding in terms of the rationale. And so, yeah, that as a result, we've been as a result, we've been able to go from 9 to 74. So that's been an extremely big piece, especially on the tech side in general. As much as technical aptitude, just general accountability is the most important thing. And so, especially when you grab someone from a larger corporation, a lot of times there's like chucking things over the fence. Well, I did my piece, and you do your part. Again, where people need to wear a lot of different hats, right? And so at a startup, the level of accountability is just that much higher than at a more established, more like larger policy-driven company.
Yeah, I would add Linxin alluded to this, but like I think it's really important when you're interviewing. If you're looking for a job, for example, at a startup, coming out of college or even coming out of high school, the biggest thing I would look for is your interest level in what we are doing. Ask tons of questions about the business model, right? The ones that ask me, that have come in prepared, having downloaded the app for Chowbus, already have ordered food, even though they may not have, known about Chowbus prior to the interview process. Like, it doesn't take long to download the app, right? And to try to order it, and then to figure out all the questions and do some research, and really, because startup companies, they're building something and they're going to depend on you to help them build something. And so we're always going to look for people who have that curiosity, and if they're really only, like, it's pretty easy in an interview process to see which candidates are really thinking more about themselves than about the company that they're interviewing for. Biggest thing is that, like, how much do they spend actually asking you questions about your business model? The ones that dive deep there, they're the ones that are more able to get the job.
Yeah, usually my whole entire interview process is, hey, what questions do you have for me? And that's pretty much where I go.
Right.
Okay, I think we're going to take another question from the audience. Christelle, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, first I just want to start off by thanking you for coming to speak with us. And I also want to say that I really admire Chowbus's mission to serve both its customers and small businesses. And my question is that you mentioned earlier that the key to like success in a startup is looking for growth opportunities. And I was just wondering how you identify those. And then also on the flip side, when they don't turn out as you planned, how do you reconcile with mistakes that you've made? You guys also talked a lot about pivoting, and I was just wondering how you go about doing that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So for the seeking growth opportunity, it's all about finding the product market fit. It's not like you purposely find it. It's like first you start with something, solve your own problem, right? For me, it's like I cannot get this restaurant from anywhere else, so I build a platform to do it. Then later on, I find a bigger opportunity. It's about I feel like the restaurant really wants a new channel to to let more people know about their food, and also the customer wants to explore great local food, right? So there is a natural product market fit there. So we just test out and we found it. Also, like, we pivot from shuttle to on demand because we found out sometimes people just want more flexibility. They want to order exactly what the restaurant they like, also at any time they want. So then we felt like this is what a customer wants. So then we just we test it out, then we prove it out, then we just scale it, make the experience better. Then we naturally you will grow. So yeah, and not every time you try something new you will be successful. Actually, there is a fine balance between trying something new, also being focused. And because you need to keep iterating your existing product which is working, instead of keep trying something new then with a resource on it. So it's hard, but once you business, you are in the business, you gotta fit. And also sometimes you use the data or your instinct to make some decision. So yeah.
Yeah, along those lines, in terms of you're always trying to new things, trying to figure out what can work. And a lot of times it's really important to be as explicit as possible in terms of like what is the success and what what is a time in which we would actually review this isn't going to work out? There's a huge cost in kind of ignoring something that isn't quite working out and letting it kind of die on its own. And so when we made the decision to turn off shuttle for good, that was like, you know, it was purely like, okay, we don't think COVID's going to be over anytime soon. And on top of that, you know, reviewing the past couple of years of shuttle performance, like what does it make sense? And that was where we could come with a conscious decision to do that, so that we can move on to the next new thing, or move on to continuing to focus on what's currently running now.
Yeah. I'll take this one in a different sense. Like I look at it like kind of in a, almost like you could say a spiritual perspective. You know, you never know, if you beat your head against the wall trying to find an idea, the idea won't come to you. You have to be kind of open to the universe. The universe is going to actually give you so many different ideas over the course of your time, right? You just have to know, you have to be open to it, right? You have to be receptive and you have to be humble, and then the right ideas will come. And usually when you know that you have a good idea that's, you know, has legs to stand on, the universe doesn't usually fight you, right? You should be able to recognize, hey, you're going a certain direction, but if you're getting this wall and this wall and this wall and this wall and this wall over and over again, maybe that's not the right thing. Or maybe that's also, you know, those are there to test you as well, to see if you can get through these, you know, obstacles as well. I mean, I think it's just at the end of it, you have to really open yourself to the universe, and during the process, trust yourself, right? And not be afraid, right? So when you see that idea come along, you know, go for it. And then the universe will tell you whether that's the right idea. And if you need to move on to the next one, you'll figure it out. You just have to trust yourself during that process.
I think we'll take another question from the audience. Tayaba, if you want to unmute.
Hi, my name is Tayaba. I was just wondering, as Mr. Chow mentioned earlier before, he mentioned about the Chowbus starting only like about a few people, or like 12 people. So my question is, did any of you have like a fear of failure about this business? Like did you ever think like, oh, is this business is going to be successful as it is today?
Yeah, it's definitely more of a Linxin question for sure. I mean, I think for just for me, like I mentioned, kind of jumping into Chowbus was kind of, even though it was very new, was kind of low risk, you know. And so a lot of it was kind of roll with the punches and figure, you know, keep figuring things out and trust that things will work out. But again, for me, I'm late in my career, so you know, backup plans upon backup plans upon backup plans. But yeah, I think for Linxin, what do you think?
I mean, for the what kind of a risk are thinking, like starting a business?
Yeah, fear of failure was what she mentioned there. Like, did you ever have a fear of failure?
Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely. Like sometimes you don't know the future, right? It's fear is definitely something, but you know, how you deal with it is your choice, right? And you don't know how well the future evolve. It's all about, you know, you believe you are building something. I think that's the most important thing. And to be honest, like when I started Chowbus, I really don't know how can, you know, how well it be involved. And also, I don't even know can I stay in US or not because because the visa thing, you just don't know. But it's definitely something you feel passionate about, and then you just believe it. Then it, and you figure out, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're not afraid, you're not human, right? Everybody's always gonna be afraid. It's just like so much of it's just conquering your fear, right? And just saying, okay, yeah, if you fear, you're there, but I'm gonna still move forward anyway, and just you brave it out, right?
Unfortunately, I think we're running out of time, so we'll wrap up with one last question. So Daniel, if you want to unmute.
All right. First, I just want to say thank you everyone for talking about their experience at Chowbus. And so my last question is about the business model. So like I know that a lot of the competitors in like the food delivery area are losing money, like Uber Eats and I think Grubhub too. So what's the difference between that and your model? Because I know you explained that like you have kind of group deliveries and stuff, but does that still minimize costs enough for like the drivers who still need their pay for you guys to make like a profit? And yeah, so just what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, when you think about a startup, especially for food delivery, what's more important is about the unit economic. So it's a gross profit per order. How you want to make sure you make money on per order base. So the more order you deliver, the more profit you can generate. So and gradually you are able to cover the engineering and some other overhead costs. And yeah, I think it's very hard to answer because sometimes most of business start with a negative unit number, but once you scale to a certain level, you hit the critical mass, then you suddenly you become profitable. And also also you need to think about the CAC, customer acquisition cost, and also the lifetime value of the customer. For example, if you acquire a customer at $10 per order, if the customer eventually will spend lots of money on a platform because the customer love your platform, you can you can get the $10 back maybe in 3 months. Then it's a legit business, right? So yeah, it's a lot of calculation behind it, and yeah, you just need to keep monitoring the key data and improve your service. Eventually, the customer spending will be higher, and also some costs will be lower. Then you can generate profits. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much, all of our panelists, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to talk with us on a Sunday afternoon. Speaking for the JEC NYC team, and I'm sure for many of today's attendees, I was so excited to hear from the people behind a product that I've been using so often, especially throughout the pandemic. So it was amazing to hear all of your stories and see how a company comes to life behind the scenes. For all of our attendees today, we would really appreciate it if you would fill out our post-event survey, which will help us continue to host amazing events like this one down the road. And I'll paste it in the chat here for everyone. Yeah, thank you again so much to all of our amazing panelists. I see all the thanks pouring into the chat. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your Sunday.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
It was amazing to meet you.
Bye, guys.